Hey, I like Robert Reich. He seems to know what it's about. He gets the economic thing. He supported Bernie Sanders.
He did. Interesting. He's one of the guys who was in the Clinton administration and turned.
He did. He turned the right way, though.
Yeah, he did turn the right way.
Yeah, because too often they turn when they're around the Clintons, they go to the dark side.
Yeah, they do. He makes some really good points. I like watching his. He makes really good videos to explain complex things at a very simple level.
Yes, Robert Reich.
Yeah.
Right. So here he wrote he has a new thing out in Salon, a new article. It says people who aren't voting for Hillary Clinton can't call themselves liberal.
I'm not a liberal. I'm a leftist. So thank you.
I'm not a liberal either. I'm a progressive. Did you ever hear that song by Phil Oakes, Love Me, I'm a Liberal?
Oh, no, I've heard of it. I've never heard
I'll
it.
play it for you afterwards. So here we go into his, by the way, that doesn't hurt me. I'm a progressive like Teddy Roosevelt. Remember, he broke up the big corporate. Well, we don't have a Democrat even coming close to anything. They're all corporatists. So I'm a progressive. How about that?
Wait, but if you're voting for Jill Stein, you are a liberal.
So that's what he's saying. If you're so what he's doing is he's going to try to debate someone to his left. So you're not a liberal, smear. That's what right away you're not a liberal. So
can we look at the picture though? Look at the picture.
Let me look. Let me go back.
Look at the picture. Who's behind her?
Kissinger?
I mean, come on! Smiling in front of a war criminal. If you vote for the person smiling in front of a war criminal, you're not a liberal.
So here's what he says in the article. He says Donald Trump is dangerous, bigoted, misogynistic, narcissistic, megalomaniac with fascist tendencies. If elected president, first of all, you could say almost everything one of those things except misogynistic, which a lot of people say that the gutting welfare, which did you know that most of the people on were women with single women and children?
Right.
So maybe you could consider that misogynistic.
Yep.
I mean, if I was Joan Walsh or Clara Jeffrey, I'd definitely, because they've really, everything's misogynistic that they don't like.
Many of those school loans are middle-aged women who tried to go back to school, couldn't do it because it was so hard because they had kids, and just got crushed, and now they're paying off school loans and they don't have a degree. Like that is a very at-risk group.
Yes. Yes, you're talking about middle-aged women who went back to school,
or just have children and they're single. They are living on the edge of the economy.
Well,
always.
You know the statistic about what people have in savings. Half the country doesn't have any savings.
Well, it's horrifying.
I mean,
it's 49% have $400, 69% have $1,000.
69% of Americans have $1,000 in savings.
Not even savings,
country in the world
that they can pull together. So it might not even just be savings.
Yeah.
That
richest
in emergency,
country the face of the earth has ever seen. You don't think we have a system problem?
The idea that people don't think that is a precarious and nightmarish place to be is astounding.
If elected president, he could wreak irreparable damage on America and the world. I don't know. I bet you if you ask somebody in Iraq...
or Honduras
or Libya. Maybe
Have you ever seen the map of weapons of what they unearthed in Libya? They had no idea how many weapons he had buried all over that country. Libya sent a massive amount of weapons that destabilized those regions. Those wars are fought with all this crap they found that he had just planted all over Libya. It was like a pot, like a flash pot of weapons exploding.
Really?
And yeah, it's crazy. It unleashed just a nightmare of weaponry around the world.
But I don't know if you know Trump.
Trump's scary also. But look, here's the thing. This is short-term thinking, right?
Yes.
So this is short-term.
This is short-term thinking.
What do these people think is going to happen in 20 years?
What's going to happen
after
in 2 years?
4 years of the exact same stuff that we have been doing that has led us to this path? What do you think is going to happen when the most unlikable president is president? The person that the other side has seen as their great devil for 30 years, their ultimate nightmare. They're going to be frothing, rabid, out of their minds. And on top of that, people are going to be suffering more because she's doing the bidding of banks. What is 2020 going to be? 2020 is now going to be what you're saying, wreak irreparable damage on America and the world. That's 2020 if And it's happening. She's going to be president. This is now a foregone conclusion. This is what it is. This is the choice that has been made.
He's trying to pretend also that Hillary is not bad in her own delightfully, uniquely hideous way.
Well, because it's the acceptable way, correct?
She's bad in the acceptable way. Iraq war acceptable,
NAFTA.
bank crashing, NAFTA, TPP. These are all horrible things for people. Oh, exploding the prison population. These are horrible things for people, except they're okay to do, I guess.
Who do you think should be president at a time when we're going to rapidly move to robot and technology and lose workers? Who do you think is the right person? A corporate president?
Right.
Is that the right person to have at that time?
No. That is the wrong person to have at that time.
We already blew it.
What Robert Sheard already told us on the show is that the problem with Hillary Clinton is she has no growth. She's shown zero growth. She's still a Goldwater girl.
She's still, she really is. Some of those WikiLeaks, her beliefs, not the screwing over of people or the little messages, but these sort of left in the past ideas of how things should work are the most terrifying things to me. Just stuff seeps through in there. And you're like, wow, you can't think that anymore. You can't think that about the economy. You can't think that about anything. We've moved past it.
He goes on, Robert Reich. Hillary isn't perfect.
Well,
wow.
She's pretty great.
She is pretty great, though. She isn't perfect, but she's able to do what? It's not like I'm asking her to fly a jet. It's that she doesn't have to have technical skills. This idea that you have to have some political skill. Like somehow you walk into Congress and it's like, oh, I don't know what button to push. That's not how it fucking works. That's not it.
Jimmy.
You have a vision and an agenda, and you set a tone.
Jimmy, I don't know if you know this, but she has experience getting health insurance bills not passed.
Not passed.
She has experience foreign policy wise. She was involved in Syria and in Libya and Honduras, so she has that.
Iraq.
She's very
How about
good.
Iraq?
Oh, that place too. She's very good with the environment because she went around the world explaining to people the best fossil fuels to use to get out of the ground in their countries.
Best fossil fuels. That's funny.
So she has a lot of experience doing these things.
She has a lot of experience.
But you have to give it this. That is a great way to frame a life's work of not being that good at something.
Yeah, she's able and experienced.
Because I don't think that she has been a good person in
She's
the
been
government.
horrible. Hey,
what has she done? The
captain of the Titanic is experienced. That's who she is. She's the captain of the Titanic. She's got Iraq on her resume. That's a disqualifier. She's got Libya, Honduras, disqualifiers. Gutting welfare, NAFTA, telecommunications, deregulating wealth. These are all disqualifiers. If Jill Stein did something like any of one of those things, people would be like, do you know what she did with Iraq? Do you know what she did? And any one of these things are disqualifiers. But he goes on to say, I've known her for almost 50 years and worked with her closely in her husband's administration. And you still back Bernie Sanders.
He has a large following. Based on what the emails we've seen, there's no way they are not putting pressure on him to do this. No way.
Oh, no doubt. He literally said to Chris Hedges, or Chris Hedges reports, that Bernie said to him, I don't want to be Ralph Nader. Look what they did to Ralph Nader. And I always tell people, look at the 2000 election. Al Gore got 500,000 more votes than George Bush, and they made George Bush president by judicial fiat.
Right.
After they kicked off 80,000 black people off the rolls in Florida, and they just let them do it. People's answer to that, people's answer to him getting 500,000 more votes and still losing, wasn't to fix the system that's obviously undemocratic. What their answer was, less third parties. That's the problem. No more voices. We can only have the one corporate voice. That was everyone's answer, and that's this answer right here. He's got more to say. He says others claim that even if she's better than Trump, she's still corrupt, and they won't vote for the lesser of two evils.
Why would
the evil of two lessers, as Jerry Brown said.
Why would people say that?
Oh, It's also why voting for a third-party candidate typically harms the candidate closest in harms.
I'm sorry, but look at the polling. The person who's being hurt by third-party voting is Trump. That's who's being hurt by third-party voting.
And by the way, I wouldn't vote if I couldn't vote for a third party. So you're not losing my vote. I could never give my vote to a warmonger who voted for the Iraq War and gutted welfare. I couldn't vote for that person. There's no way I could vote for that person. So I wouldn't vote if there wasn't another option. So that's why I say thank you, Jill Stein, for giving me a place to express my vote. And if everybody, Americans are 40% of Americans say they're independent. If we all voted our conscience instead of fear, because we're all, I'd like to, just like Bernie Sanders said, I'd like to vote for an independent, but you can't win. If everybody voted their conscience, the independent party would win. And we get rid of this two-party duopoly, which serves power and money, which has brought us here to Trump and Hillary. This kind of voting has brought us here. So this is what he goes. It's also why voting for a third-party candidate typically harms the candidate. Blah, 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 blah. Remember election of 2000. We just talked about that.
I remember that. I didn't vote for either president. I voted for Nader. I live in California. Who gives a shit? Right? Because the way the system's set up. I haven't voted for a Democrat or Republican since 94. And often I have left it blank.
Really?
Yeah, because I did not like any of the third-party candidates. The Green Party coming around has been good, but there's been a couple Green Party people I wouldn't vote for. But yeah, I haven't voted for a Democrat or Republican president in ages.
He says voting for someone who doesn't meet your ideals when the alternative is someone who falls much further from those ideals doesn't mean you've sold out, Dave, or compromised your principles.
Again,
holy shit.
Again, this goes to what do you think is coming down the road?
You're just being realistic. You're being practical.
They're not being realistic because how do they not see what's coming?
I want to vote against war. Come on, be realistic. I want to vote against Goldman Sachs. Come on, grow up. You can't vote against Goldman Sachs. There's no way to do it.
So if we have a guy who's hitting babies in the head with hammers, and the guy just to the left of him is not hitting babies with hammers, but he is invading every country on earth, and he is allowing a military
he's allowing
martial law, everything else. That's the guy we vote for because at that point we're being realistic, correct?
Being realistic and grown up, and you're being practical.
Because I don't want to. The guy's hitting babies with hammers.
He says right now. He says realism and practicality are critically important.
There is such a remarkable inability to see that this is a creeping nightmare. And it has been a creeping nightmare for so long. How can you not see that we are now at a critical juncture? And you had a possibility in Bernie Sanders to change things, and you decided not to do that. And you are now staring at an abyss. You're staring at an abyss, and all these people on the coast think it's awesome because they think they get to keep living their life.
Yes, their same life.
It's not how it works in a democracy. As soon as you allowed monopolies and corporate control to take over, which started in the 70s, great article, by the way, by Matt Stoller that came out in The Atlantic that breaks all this down of how we got here this week.
Okay.
I highly recommend it to everybody. It's one of the best articles I've seen on this. But look, we made a choice in the 70s, and we threw this aside to get in bed with corporations, talking about the left. And this is where we are.
Wall Street.
And this is where we are now.
So keep doing what we've always done. That's the advice from Robert Reich. Keep doing what we've always done. He says, but anything disgruntled Democrats may do that increases the odds of Trump presidency, say making a protest vote for a third-party candidate or not voting at all, doesn't just penalize the Democratic Party, it also jeopardizes our children and that of our children's children. That is fear-mongering. You got to do it for the kids.
The babies.
You got to do it for the kids that can't protect themselves. You can't do it for the kids who can't vote for corporates. Kids aren't allowed to vote for their own warmonger. You have to do it for them.
How do you make this argument without taking into account the electoral system and the fact that many, 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 many states, people can vote for whoever they want, and she'll still win.
And she's going to get a landslide, like you said, Dave. And what that's going to mean, if she gets an electoral landslide, which means she will go so far to the right that it'll make her. She already picked a vice president who's right to work. You don't think her Supreme Court's going to be a Republican? You don't think she's going to say, I couldn't get anybody else through? It's a Republican Senate. You don't think she's going to start another war? Anyway, the banks are going to crash. We're going to have more militarized police. We're going to have more war. We're going to have more climate change. We're going to have more everything bad. Hey, congratulations.